Welcome to the Business Owner Spotlight. I am your host, Stephanie Scheller. My job every week is going out and finding super freaking smart, super freaking cool business owners. And we have another first. It seems like I'm doing more and more of these firsts here. So I've been interviewing a lot of US-based business owners, and I'm interviewing someone who right now it is 4:40-ish my time, and it is almost midnight for Miha. Thank you for taking the time out of your night to join me.
Hey, and so nice of you to have me on your podcast.
Absolutely. So for our listeners, I've done my little online stalking, but for my listeners, what is it that you do and how did you end up doing that for your business?
Okay, so this is something that I get asked a lot, and I hope the answer will surprise you. So I am fail coach, and when I tell that to people, usually the question is, fail coach, haha, so just another success life coach. And what you try to help people not to fail, and the answer is just no. I don't try to help them not to fail. That would be me doing exactly the opposite of what's right. What I do help them with is change how they view failure. So change their mindset, because you can't have success without failure. But it's really, really important that you don't look at failure as something terrible, as something to be ashamed of, something, that failure is not an option attitude. That's just
Right.
wrong.
Right.
And I actually help people fail more, but fail intelligently and embrace failure, learn from it, grow from it, and then eventually achieve major success.
Nice.
And the thing was, how I started doing that. I had a lot of failure in my life, and it was not the smart failure, but the dumb failure.
What's the difference between a smart failure and a dumb failure? Like, you're going to have to clarify that one, because I have a feeling most of our listeners will be wondering that, as I am.
Well, smart failure is like controlled failure, or, you're being mindful about what you're doing. So you recognize patterns. You are humble enough to search for help when you see that you need help or you need to learn something new, and so on. Dumb failure was me being too cocky and too overconfident, thinking like I'm the king of the world, and just kept doing same things, expecting different results.
I've done that a couple times.
So, and that was my huge downfall. I mean, in 2009 I had 4 companies, and my personal net worth was 12.5 million euros, which is roughly 14-15 million US. And in just 2 weeks I managed to bankrupt all 4 companies and went 3.6 million euros, so around 4.5-5 million US in personal debt. And because laws in Slovenia are not as forgiving when you go into bankruptcy as in USA, I was unable to declare personal bankruptcy. So I had to actually repay the whole thing. By the way, if you're wondering, where is Slovenia? Slovenia is a really, really small European country, but it's a huge part of USA, because Melania Trump, she's actually from Slovenia. So, we don't want to get into that.
I was going to say, I'm just going to let that
just, sometimes it's the most easy way to explain to people where is
the
Slovenia.
Pop culture reference. I get it.
Just that, nothing else.
Right.
I went completely bankrupt. I went into huge depression, anxiety. I came like minutes away from committing suicide. And then at that precise moment, I actually found my why. And that why, that huge motivation, that bigger pain than pain of living, was my mom and what would happen to her, because my father died already, grandparents dead, she was bank clerk. And also in Europe, the thing is that parents need to repay some of that debt. Yeah. So she would
I've always
actually,
thought that would be smart. Honestly, that kind of irritates me about over here is like, oh, I messed up. Okay, we'll just fold up and move on. I'm like, no, there's real repercussions for that. But anyhow, that's besides
yeah,
the point.
yeah, it's not that easy to do that in Europe. Yeah. So basically, I went through all that, and then it took me 5 years to bounce back, to change my mindset, to change basically who I am, and all that, because I needed different actions to get different results. So I needed to change, and a few years after that, I was approached by one business school. Somebody there learned about my story, and they were like, say, Miha, we really think that, it's our students, it's okay that they're learning about how-tos and all that, but we feel that it would be really nice if somebody would tell them how it is to fail, what happens, the emotions and all that. And they were searching for somebody, to speak openly, and nobody wanted to, because fail is still seen as something to be ashamed of and not talk about it. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll talk about it, no problem. I really bounced completely out of it, so it was really not a problem. And yeah, that's how Fail Coach started. People started calling me like, can you help me with this, can you help me with that? I got invited to many different stages throughout Europe, universities, startup incubators, accelerators, and so on. And then people would just reach out to me and like, can you help me with this? What would your advice be? And so Fail Coach was born.
Wow. So this is super. I always take notes while I'm listening. So I promise I'm not ignoring you as I'm looking down here. This is really interesting though, because I'm realizing like all of my prior interviews, I've asked people what have been the moments when you've, close to when you've almost gone out of business, and how did you get out of it, or how did you go? You've actually had the forced out of business. You've actually hit like total rock bottom. How did you said you bounced back? How? What was it that, you're in business again. Obviously you're either insane or, or you just, so how did you get from like total depression, failure to here? What made the difference?
Well, it was really, really rough after losing all that, because it was not just money. I also got divorced. I lost everything, really, basically everything. And like I said, I was minutes away from committing suicide, because, the whole idea of just jumping off that balcony before they take my apartment seemed like so lesser pain than going through what I was going through every day, all the emotions, all the phone calls, all the anxiety, being alone and lonely at home, wanting to go out. And then when you're out, you don't want to be there because your head is so full and it never stops. Everything in your head, it just doesn't stop. And, I was, when night would come, I was trying to be awake as long as possible, because once you fall asleep, bam, there's morning. And I wanted the night, because night was the quiet time, no phone calls, no nothing, to last as long as possible, until I would just fall asleep at my desk usually, and then wake up to new phone calls. And then Friday, it's like, wow, weekend, but then you start thinking, damn, but just 2 days and then it will be Monday. So you're trying to almost insanely stop the time, and that doesn't happen. So it was, yeah, it was to me it seemed like the easier option to you just jump. How much, the only concern was like, will I do it properly, or am I even too big of failure to do that properly, and I'm gonna end up on a wheelchair or something? Yeah, that was my only issue. But then, like, I was smoking my last cigarette, and like really getting myself ready to do it. And at that moment, it kind of flashed into my head, like, what will happen with my mom? I mean, I will solve myself. I mean, everything will just end, and that's it. No more stress, no more anxiety, no more depression. But then, you know, the whole idea, what would happen to her? She would become homeless and all that. Well, that was even bigger pain than what I had to endure daily. And that was my why. That was my motivation. Because we always, you know, want to run away from pain and get as close to the pleasure as possible. When you're so down, you can't think of pleasure because that's just so far away. I mean, you honestly don't know if you're going to be alive tomorrow. How can you, you know, set goals that are 1 year from now? I mean, I wouldn't even say yes when people invited me to the birthday. I mean, like, okay, that's in 2 weeks. Who knows if I'm going to be alive then? So you either can do it from pain or from pleasure. Mine was from pain, from bigger pain than what everyday's life was. And that, you know, was the moment, the aha moment, when I said to myself, like, you failed, you F-bomb failed. And yeah, and that was when I realized, like, okay, it's not other people. I mean, I had so much anger and all that in me because I blamed everything on others and so on. But it was like, you did those mistakes, you did those stupid decisions. Now I can actually learn from that, do it differently. And I already did it once. So now I can even just do it much better. And that was the first step. But then I had to learn from all those mistakes. And, you know, at first I thought, okay, I just need to figure out the how to. So, you know, a bit better at finances, a bit better at hiring people and leading the team and so on. But in reality, that didn't help because my whole mindset, everything, so the foundation was wrong. So I had to go back to the drawing board and, you know, work on being mindful, being grateful, being humble, all those things. And then when I did those, then I went to productivity, finances, and so on and so on. I mean, I always joke how, like, I don't have a college degree, but I do have several doctoral degrees from University of Hard Knocks. And yeah, I mean, I learned so much, but
I've never had anybody claim they have a doctoral degree from the University of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, well, I do. I do. And you know what? In 2014, I went out, created a startup. I had no product. With that, just doing my homework right and making a white paper on 2 pages and an Excel sheet. I got one company to be ready to sign as a client. And then I went out and managed to find an investor who was ready to invest 3 million US dollars seed money into the company, and we started the whole project. And this startup, I mean, I exited it like a few months ago and went into new challenges. But that startup is now worth more than 8 million US, and the investor already tripled his investment just from the positive cash flow. So I obviously did something really right. Wow. And those, all the things that I do right now are from those lessons, from all those mistakes that I did. Like in the last 2 years, I helped 7 companies go from idea or just very early stage startup to the market, pitch, find investor, create story, employ the right team. I'm a huge fan of lean business development, lean business plan, and so on. So yeah. I actually help companies with my with lessons learned from my failures, and I do it really, really well. One of those startups, I mean, I basically got to work with them when they were just two friends with an idea, and they went into one startup incubator to do this kind of course on the pre-startup phase, and I was their mentor.
Wow.
Unfortunately, I can't say the name of the company because of the NDA, but I can just use the numbers because I was just subcontracted by the startup incubator. But I checked a few months ago, and they're now valued at 18 million US.
Wow.
So I obviously did something good there as well. And
so
all that came from lessons learned. So
what are some of those lessons? I know we're running out of time real fast here, but if you had, what are some of those lessons that you're like these are the biggest things that make a big difference?
The biggest thing I would say are three things. Be grateful for what you have, and not just, look at everything you still don't have, because you will never be happy. And then the next thing is be humble in a way that you recognize when you don't know something, and then you either go and learn something, or find somebody who will do it for you, or hire somebody. I mean, there are many ways how you can solve lack of knowledge or lack of expertise. And then the third one would be, don't fear failure, because if you do that, failure just means that you're trying new things. You're pushing your boundaries, you're pushing yourself out of comfort zone. So if fear of failure stops you from doing something that will eventually lead to failure, you will then fail on life, because you will not do anything new. You will not be pursuing your dreams, your goals, your passions. That, in my opinion, is the only failure that is actually a real failure. So those three things, and I never listened any of those three before that big failure. And those were I mean, yeah, the failures came from signing a wrong agreement, but those were things why that happened. I didn't go and search for the right lawyer. I didn't go and search for the right financial advisor, and so on and so on. But that because I was not humble and to search for help when I needed it.
I love those. I think that was, wow, that was great. I just underlined those in my notes, and I'm going to put them up on my board here, because those are great. And I think you're right. When it really comes down to it, and I always tell people, look, the how-to, my coach told me this first time I met him. He said, the how-to is easy stuff. And I couldn't understand it. And now the more I've learned, I'm like, the how-to is easy. The how-to is very easy. You can find anybody to help you with the how-to. It's the why, it's the mindsets that either make it or break it. So
yeah. I mean, just look at one thing, productivity. Did you ever had problems with being productive when you were doing something that you're really passionate about and you really enjoy?
No.
You found time, you were there on time, you prepared everything, you've done everything. So obviously productivity is not your problem. Your problem is doing things that you're not passionate about.
Right.
Now, how we can flip that and switch that so that you either start doing more of the things you enjoy, or that you will connect what you need to do with the end result, which is then pleasurable and enjoyable.
I love that. I think that's true. Even, I could see some of my clients being like, but Stephanie, I just need to be more productive. I'm like, no, you need to get past the fear of having to do these items that are going to make you more productive. So
yeah,
I think you're spot on there. Well, Miha, dude, you made me cry. You made me get 2 pages of notes here. This was amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. I mean, I'm always looking forward when I can, tell the story and share it with people. So in hope that I will change at least somebody's view on how they view failure.
I love it. I think this was awesome. Guys, if you're interested in connecting with him, we got contact information below. He's tagged in the post. I mean, go find this guy, check out, he's got a Facebook group, all kinds of cool stuff. Project, just Go look at the links. Anyhow, oh, you have something to add?
Yeah, just one thing. You know what's a nice thing if you're a fail coach?
What?
When you go to Google and you save and you write in the search box fail coach, I'm the only one.
Well, there you go. Just
So,
Google fail
yeah,
coach, guys.
yeah, that's the best SEO that I could have done.
I was going to say that's great branding right there. I'm going to encourage you guys, for our listeners out there, we're working hard to bring you guys brilliant people, getting you access to those minds that you may have never had the opportunity to get access to. And I kind of feel like we hit that here. So again, thank you, Miha, for this. This was worth so much. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Really, thank you.
For our listeners, guys, I'm just going to leave it at that. You have the potential ahead of you. If you're afraid of failure, this was a great one. But regardless, your life is 100% up to you. You're the only person who can make the decision to go out there and make it happen. So make it a great week.